Questions?
How about weed control?
Weed control. This is a little vine called Smilax. Yeah, S-M-I-L-A-X. You pull out as much of it as you can when the soil is soft with gloves, and then you get your vinegar and orange oil and you spray what sprouts up afterwards. We call it organic Roundup. It's a gallon of vinegar, 2 ounces of orange oil, but you pull out as much of it as you can, because you'll find this has a woody underground stem. The more of that you get out, the less of this you will have resprout.
Is it systemic? Is it going to kill the root, or is it just you got to keep that?
You got to keep doing it. Nothing systemic. Roundup claims it is, but this stuff comes right now. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, ma'am. Nutsedge is the easiest stuff in the world to get rid of. You like molasses? Okay. Gallon of water, half a cup of molasses. Go out and water your nutsedge with that. Do the same thing again in 2 weeks, and a month from now it'll be gone. It rots. Half a cup of molasses.
Is that like briar rabbit molasses? Or
any kind of molasses. Doesn't make any difference. I dip the molasses out of my lick feeders for my cows because that molasses costs me $2 a gallon. But molasses and water will totally eliminate nutsedge. If you don't go over a half a cup per gallon, it won't hurt your other plants either.
What about the little oak sprouts that come up when the neighbor cuts?
That's a real good question. The oak sprouts come up because the roots of the plant are getting sun on them.
My neighbor just cut their big tree.
Now we got all that sun on the ground. The roots of the tree are saying, "Oh my God, the top of the tree must be gone. I better grow a new trunk." So we got to make the soil darker. And we can do that with 2 or 3 inches of mulch. We can do that with letting the grass grow a lot taller and a lot denser. But to stop the root sprouts, you just got to make the soil darker. And whatever we can do it. What's that?
I mean, I go out there and pull them.
Yeah. The problems with that, they're going to come right back. And theoretically, it's not real likely that it's going to happen. But even that little wound that you make, you could get oak wilt through that.
But it's
Never going to go away.
For
Make
the
the
old
ground darker.
seedlings, is that what you were
No,
asking?
those are not seedlings. Those are pieces coming off the
coming
roots.
off. My neighbor cut that tree down in there.
Yeah. The darker you make the soil, the fewer sprouts you have. So make the soil dark.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
2 or 3 inches of mulch. Or in some cases, let your grass grow taller. Or let your ground cover grow thicker. But those sprouts come off the roots when the sunlight hits the roots. As long as that big, dense tree top's up there, you go out in the woods where you see these big, dense oak trees, no root sprouts. You take where you cut those limbs off so that you can get underneath and work around, you got root sprouts everywhere. What's that?
I have a sprinkler system that you use like where I put in before you can close that up, SAWS had to come and inspect it. Okay, SAWS comes and inspects it. It passes inspection, everything is up to code. They bury it in the ground. This year I got a notification the city will come and inspect it every 2 years for $45. So that's the latest thing that the city has done to us. As far as the new sprinkler, yes, as far as the sprinkler system is concerned, $45, they will send you a list of accredited people only to do it. He's about to be elected today, and I hope the right one gets in.
Well, but I'm sure.
The city council completely, they won't touch it. Most of the salvias are different. And I don't like to hear, well, the deer will eat anything if they're
But the other thing
and for practical matters, there's about 15 to 20 really good plants that deer just
I have it in
If
writing.
they have anything
I
else,
learned my lesson.
like rosemary, I mean, deer would rather eat that.
years ago we had big.
Interestingly, deer don't eat grass. It's ornamental grass. Well, that's not really grass.
We had this little quirk from Soul Compliance shows up one day and says, "Yeah, everybody's bad guys." I said, "Why?" I said, "They're too close to the street." And I said, "Well, sir, we've got who's your supervisor?" So I called the supervisor. Oh, I remember that. Don't worry about it. This guy shows up again 2 weeks later. These beds are still there. I told you to rip them out. I said, "No, sir, I talked to the supervisor." He said, "You're not dealing with my supervisor. You're dealing with me." So I said, go away. I called the supervisor back. I said, don't worry about it. Well, he comes out a third time. This time I'm not here, but Roberta, I've heard him here. He gets her driver's license number and everything. 2 days later in the mail, we get an arrest warrant. A warrant has been issued for your arrest. You will be arrested at your home, your place of business, or whatever. We called our crime, what do we call it? Illegal beautification. I had Howard Pete and the mayor, Nelson Wolf, was mayor at that time. And he eventually solved the problem, but not before court hearings and the whole works. So you tell me. And I'll tell you one other story. They're redoing the street. They poured a little retaining wall in front of our property. They make it 3 inches too low. We point this out to them, and the guy that's sort of the supervisor says, man, that needs to be corrected immediately. He wasn't part of the city. He was what we call their butt kicker. He made sure the contractor was finally doing the work. And he says, man, I'd do it in a minute. He said, but they won't let me authorize anything that expensive. So he gets the contractor out there, or the city guy out there. And the city guy calls me back. He says, I'm just calling to tell you we're not going to do anything about that. And I said, Richard, you know, you guys screwed up. This looks terrible. You're telling me I'm just supposed to accept this and like it? He said, I didn't say you're supposed to like it. I just said we're not going to do anything.
Tough luck.
And I said, well, I can't really accept that. We may end up suing you or whatever. And he says, do whatever you can. Call the mayor. Real wise-ass attitude. So I call the mayor. Interesting. The mayor came out. The mayor's wife shops here on a fairly regular basis. 2 days later, the guy that's the enforcer, so to speak, comes out with the contractor. And Bud says, well, looks like we're going to need to correct this little problem for you. Come out and show us what we need to do. And this guy's an extremely nice guy, not with the city, but the guy that was sort of their enforcer. Well, after the contractor goes away, he says, I have to tell you, the conversation that went on down at City Hall, or down at the office this morning, this jerkweed from the city that said they wouldn't do anything. The city comes storming and says, that son of a bitch, Bob Webster, call the mayor. So call the mayor. Turns out the mayor's wife shops there. I said, Bud, did you tell him he's the one that told me to call the mayor? So I can believe anything's possible dealing with the city.
Well, it is. I mean, and you know, nobody knows about this now. Why my neighbor up the street, sprinkler, doesn't have to pay $45 for every 2 years to use it, but mine does. Rots my
Did
socks.
I tell you about the time we were going to expand the building and they told us we were going to have to put a $6,000 fire plug in? Because the city decided the fire plugs were too far apart, and since we were the first ones to apply for a building permit after that we were going to have to pay for the whole fire plug?
No.
Again, gripe loudly enough to the city councilman and things change.
I thought of calling whoever goes behind the kitchen door and tell him about my sprinkler problem and see if that would work.
It won't hurt.
It won't hurt.
I got one question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, guys.
Deer will eat anything, I understand it. What about things that are poisonous, like a sago palm? I had one disappear, and I don't know if Chris got it or...
For a two-legged.
A two-legger one. It was a little one. This was over there in...
Deer are
Comal
actually,
County.
can be hungry enough that they will eat poisonous plants
Oh, they
that end
will?
up killing them. If they're hungry enough, they'll
It was
eat
a young one. I thought it just disappeared.
No, nothing eats sago palms.
Thank you. I got lots of them on a plant. It just...
Would you mind recommending?
There is a company called Outdoor Lighting Perspectives. And they have done nicer work than anybody that I've seen. They use these lower voltage lights that are still bright, so they don't have to do as much of a butcher job on the ground. But that's fascinating, guys. I can't say his name off the top of my head. Full time he's a Southwest Airlines pilot, and the rest of the time he does but he does a nice job. And it's Outdoor Lighting Perspectives. If you can't find the phone number, let me know. I'll trace it out.
We've tried that solar light. We used it for a pass, and that worked good, and we used some smaller ones around the flower bed.
The solar, if you don't require a light bright enough to lead by,
Just doing the pass around the...
Some of it does lodge.
Some of it doesn't. Solar lights aren't going to be, but yeah, I like those solar
They're
lights.
lasting like about 14 hours.
Yeah, it all depends on the quality of the solar collector. If you get the ones made by Siemens, they're very good. In fact, we've got them.
Just tried it on the pass. The pass is light, it's not glare, directional.
But what you want, you actually.
But Siemens, S-E-E-N.
S-I-E-M-E-N-S. Big job.
I have landscaping because
They make this, the best.
You talk about the rain changes, high dollar, with a high dollar garden shop that always sells them. Went to Target, got them 60 to 70% less.
They probably got them, found out they couldn't sell them, cut the price.
Target sold them real cheap. I mean, oh, we looked at that, we bought a bunch of boxes.
Very good, very good.
I've got some 12-inch papers I have in front of my patio. And I used to have grass in between.